All right, thank you. First, just so I get a feel for the room, who is selling strategy already? All right, oh, a lot of hands. All right, which is good, so that'll give us a chance. I can get through this pretty quick, and then we can get into Q&A to see how we can amplify that for you. Who here sees themselves as an expert? Are you an expert at what you do? Yeah. All right, good, everybody's an expert. My thesis is that most of you are not selling your expertise correctly. You're selling it in one manner that feels natural, and I'm going to do my contrary thinking and tell you how to sell your expertise in a completely different manner. So why sell strategy? What strategic thinking actually is, and how to sell and deliver strategy. So one of the things is, who does data-driven market research in the strategy? Because we got a lot of hands that came up. We got 1, 2. So the reality is, if you are not doing data, you're not doing strategy. It's not real strategy, and I'll get into that in greater depth in a bit. But the reason why we want to sell strategy is if you're selling services, and I'm assuming everyone selling services of some sort in here, you're selling services. Your clients see that as labor. You don't. You see it as expertise. Your client sees it as labor. And labor is interchangeable. We live in a global world. You, whether you want to or not, are competing with everyone else on the planet who does what you do. So that means even with recurring revenue services, your value goes down over time. Labor goes down in value over time, because what your client starts thinking is, hey, Headley's a great guy. I love you, man. You do a great job. But I think I can get this cheaper. It happens every time. People start to devalue what you are selling over time. The longer they stay as a client, the less they value what you do, and that is why strategy is so important. So who am I? Tim Conley. I've been working with agencies for 2 decades. Had an agency, did the whole trying to be a fancy ad agency guy, trying to win awards and all that stuff. And so I've been in the trenches for a very long time, and I've been helping agencies fix their business. You get a few $1 million in revenue, and then all of a sudden you wish to kill everyone around you because your clients are driving you nuts, all your people are driving you nuts. Rob Nixon's talk, when he was out, he's like, oh, blank slate, I don't have to deal with any human being from now on, right? And that's what was driving him. Well, I fix a lot of those businesses that they are marginally profitable, but they could be massively profitable with a lot less stress. So, business case for strategy. Why you should be in a strategy-first agency. So the very first thing you have to sell is your expertise, not your service. And there's a difference. Your service is labor, remember? What you're doing is you need to sell your expertise. The person who's working with you needs to believe that you are the expert, not an expert. Let me say that one more time. They need to see you as the expert and not an expert. And so the best way to do that is to start off with strategy. And I'm going to start using strategic thinking from here on, because we're not actually going to do full-blown strategy like McKinsey does. We're not going to do a 2-year strategy program charging $3 million and delivering a gigantic report at the end. We're not doing that. We're actually going to be solving clients' problems in a very fast manner in the beginning, so they see us as the expert to solve their problems going forward. So this is something that I've gotten pushback on, and so there's enough people already selling it that you probably don't see this pushback, which is, why should I do that? I just want your service. I know Headley builds websites, and if they come to him and they say, I just want you to build my website. No, I don't want that. I don't want that strategy thing. I just want you to build my website. Well, having that pushback is one of the things that we need to address. And by having this strategy going forward, the reason they're going to buy it and they're going to be excited to buy it is the business problems that you're going to solve that they don't know exist. So the best analogy is a doctor. You go to the doctor and you tell the doctor, hey, I've got a broken arm. I know exactly what's wrong with my arm. It's broken right here. Now just fix it. Just fix it for me. I don't want you to do anything else, just fix that. What's the doctor going to tell you? The doctor is going to say, we're going to get x-rays. Sure, you might be right. It's probably broken. You might need a website, but let's do x-rays and see what's actually going on. Because we don't even, maybe there is a break, but what kind of break is it? Is it a break that we can just splint? Or is it a break that we have to do surgery on? We don't know yet. So the first thing the doctor's going to do is diagnosis. And you learn far more from a doctor through that diagnosis process. You get to learn what is actually wrong with me, hopefully, right? And this is something that your clients find valuable. When they come to you for whatever service you have, I know, Simon, you do Facebook advertising. They come to you and like, I want Facebook ads. Well, why? Even Rob Nixon, when he was talking, first question he asked, why are we even speaking? That is the first question that is going to make a client see you as the expert and not an expert. Your profitability. See, this is something, and Rob was talking about this, I think he said, what was it, 94% profitability in his coaching? Well, you can have 94% profitability in your strategy. Maybe not 94. It's my average is around 90% profitability on the strategy side of what we do, because it doesn't take a lot to deliver it. It does, and the client is extremely happy about it, and there's no comparison. So if somebody comes to you and you're offering strategy and they say, okay, I want to compare your strategy with someone else's strategy, there's literally no comparison. There's no way they can match that. Facebook advertising, they'll go, oh, what's your price? And you'll say a price, and then they'll go look for somebody who's cheaper, because they just assume the labor is identical. But when you're doing strategy and selling strategy, your strategic thinking, then your profitability will skyrocket. And later I'll talk about what it'll do for your overall business. We are not selling McKinsey-style strategy. We're not going to do it. I think most people here, what's the largest size client that anyone has in here? Largest size, what's their revenue? 50 mil? Right, so 50 mil, you could start getting into McKinsey style. You could do that if you wanted. You could actually do large projects, large strategic projects for a 50 mil company. I've got one of my agencies in the construction space, and we get a lot of 150 million and up clients coming. We've even had a few that were in the $1 billion range, and we tried selling larger projects to them, and they weren't even interested. So we found that we had to do smaller strategic projects to then scale up with them. So most of the people in here, we're not going to try to do something really big. We want to sell our thinking, our expertise. We're going to turn our expertise, the thoughts, which is nothing but the thoughts and the knowledge that's trapped in our head, we're going to turn that into a consultative process with our clients. And that consultative process is what is going to derive, they are going to derive value from. But the best part is you don't go into any project blind. Like, how many times have you started a project and it changes on you, like drastically? All of a sudden the client's like, yeah, nah, I don't like any of that. That's not what I wanted. That advertising, that is not what I wanted. That website, it's not what I wanted. I wanted this, I had this other idea. It's like, no, that's not what we talked about. But that's because they weren't clear. And you, so eager to sell your service, that you skipped over the strategy for the client, that you didn't get locked in the vision, the clarity necessary to have a successful project. So this is from Sakis & Company. They've got a great way of structuring this. there's value in different levels of strategy. So one of the things that I don't know if you can read it from the back of the room. So down here at the bottom, I don't know if I have a laser. Down here at the bottom is campaign strategy. So this is for marketing. In the marketing world, down at the very bottom is your service, the strategy that you're going to use to plan out the thing you're going to deliver. So with Facebook ads, well, we're going to run an initial campaign. So we're going to do that. That strategy is the lowest value strategy. At the top is when we get into the overall business. Why are we doing Facebook ads in the first place? What if we get into the rest of the company? We find out that you do need some Facebook ads, but you really need something else. You've got an operational problem. That's one of the things that got me into doing what I do, is I was working with so many clients over the years that were sabotaging my advertising campaigns because it turns out even though they said they wanted more customers, they couldn't actually serve more customers. And so they sabotaged the program. So what I did is I learned how to do operations. I learned how a company runs, so I would go in and fix how they would run operationally so that we could actually drive lots of customers into the business without collapsing the business. And this is something that you may never get up into even integrated marketing. Integrated marketing would be every type of marketing that they're doing, TV, radio. I ran an ad agency at one point and we did all that, TV, radio. Back then we called it clicks and mortar. We were doing everything. And so you can start doing strategy at that higher level. You may do the strategy at that higher level, yet only deliver your service. Like Simon could do business strategy at the highest level, get paid $80,000 just to do the strategy, and then only deliver on the Facebook advertising. You will have a lot more opportunity in value and in what you get to do. You get more opportunity as to what you do by using these tiers. So let's package and sell and deliver. So just a little note, and I said this as an aside. I'm going to go through this quickly because I really want to go into Q&A because most of you are selling strategy. So I want to be able to get into Q&A quickly. So we're going to run through this pretty fast. So packaging. Paid discovery. Who does paid discovery? The thing you call strategy, is it paid discovery? Is it really just like I'm just scoping the project? Or do you do more than that? Right? So paid discovery is the easiest. That's at the very bottom. It's the lowest type of strategy you can do. Strategic thinking is to do paid discovery. Get paid to scope the project. You can't call it paid discovery. No one will give you money if you say, oh, what we're doing here is you're going to pay me so I can sell you, right? They're not going to take that. So you're going to call it a roadmap, you're going to call it an audit, you're going to call it whatever. And so this is how I structure my paid discovery. It turns out to be 1 to 2 calls, usually just one. It's an interview process, and you use a structured questionnaire, and you deliver a report. My report that I do most of the time is a verbal report because I like writing. So I just tell them, and we record it. And like, if you want, I can have someone transcribe the recording, but I'm not writing down the findings of this report. I'm not going to do it. But in our agency, we actually do deliver a report saying, this is what you need to do, this is the next thing you need to do, and here's how you can do it, and you can go somewhere else and let someone else do it for you. For those who do paid discovery, how often do those people say, nah, I'll go find someone else to deliver it for me? Like, it's rare, right? It's really rare. So the fee, approximately 10% of your core service. Now, I'm going to use percentages here, but here's the thing. If this comes out to a small number, if 10% comes out to a small number, guess what? Your core service is too cheap, right? So this number should be anywhere from 2 to $10,000 for road mapping. That should be about 10% of your service. If it's not, then your service is probably not comprehensive enough for your clients, or you might be able to do at, say, an agency that I know of that does branding, their package is $25,000. Their road mapping that they do is $4,000. So that's well over 10%. What is that, like 18, 7? I don't know, I can't do math. So then the next thing is a strategic workshop. I love doing these. I love actually doing this. I hate getting on a plane, but I do like doing this. Doing strategy sessions as a workshop, 1 to 2 days on site or live in person online. There's a software called Mural that you can mix and match with, say, GoToMeeting or Zoom or something like that, that allows you to have a whiteboard, an interactive whiteboard, which is a great tool for doing workshops online. So you do not have to go to someone's location or have them come to yours. But the thing is I've tested this. In-person, live in-person works better every single time for strategy. Every single time. And the thing is you'll probably not cover any more content than you did in your interview. In the paid discovery interview, you'll probably not actually cover more content in that 1 to 2 day period. But you will get deeper insight into your client, what they are actually thinking. It's very powerful. I really love doing it. The fee, approximately 25%, maybe a little more of your core service. Again, this if you're charging for this project, a 1 day, $10,000 is what we do. If you go beyond to 2 days, you're going to see $15,000 or $25,000 in that range, depending on what's being done and other expenses associated to it. So you've got to manage that, because if you come in and your strategy is $80,000 and then your service is $30,000, there's not a good match here, right? The client's not even going to be able to comprehend why there's that disparity. So the next thing is actually strategy consulting. I do this with my clients, my agency clients, where we do 1 to 3 months of actual diving into their business. And this gets much closer to like something that you would see from a large consulting firm, but at a very reduced level. Like we only are able to cover a small amount of what the business is going to achieve, but we're able to get exactly the insights that the client is after. And the best part is, like, and one of the reasons I like it taking as much as 3 months is I'm after the psychology of my client. I really want to know what makes them tick, because I've done enough consulting, I've done enough coaching, I've done enough business to know that if you don't understand your customer, then they're never going to get the results that you really want, that they really want to get. You have to understand them. So the longer you're involved in the thinking side of your project, the longer you're involved in the thinking, the longer you delay doing services, and I know this is contrary to the way most of you operate your businesses, the longer it takes before you actually start doing services, the greater understanding you can have of your client. I'm just going to let that sink in. So the fee, probably 50% of your core service. And you may find that you're able to deliver this at a lower amount. You may find that you need to actually charge a little bit more, but somewhere around 50% of your core service should be a consulting project. One agency, and I mentioned the $80,000 of this, one agency, Blind, they charge $80,000 to do their strategy before they actually do the brand building for their clients. So $80,000, and then the actual project that they'll do is in the $250,000 and up. So the clients find significant value there. You may be charging, say your core service is $50,000. You might be able to do this service for $25,000 you might be able to do that. You may have to move that around a bit. Selling it. I can't give you the exact script that I do because it wouldn't fit with everybody here, but I'm just going to go into what really matters about this. Like I said, pay discovery is the simplest and fastest way for you to get involved in your selling your thinking. First, it's one of the first ways, and it's easy to do. It takes a pre-qualifying call. You just do a simple pre-qualifying call, and you tell them, here is my process. The process is we do a paid discovery. Then the next step is we'll actually do the work for you if you choose to use us. That's if you're using the term road mapping or audit or something like that. Best part is you're paid to scope the project. Change your language. This is the one thing that I've worked with some of the companies when they say, oh, I do strategy, is that they're not actually using the language of strategy. I've worked with a lot of marketing agencies, digital marketing agencies, and they use the words like leads, customers. We get you leads, we get you customers. That's labor. You're telling the person right up front, I do labor for you. You're not telling them, I will make your business better, and you're telling them, I will do labor for you so that you'll get better, right? It's a nuance, but it's important. Start changing the way you speak to your clients. If you want them to see you as the expert as opposed to an expert, you have to change the way you talk. Sales, ads, website must showcase thinking. So if you do a lead magnet that says like the 5 ways to do something, right? After they get that lead magnet, you have to go into the strategy. You have to immediately start talking about that. If all you do is give them how to, and then you say, oh, we also do that as a service, right? You just jump right into labor. That's how most sales processes and most sales funnels function. But when they come onto that sales call and you go, well, our process is we're going to sell you our thinking first. And they're not going to believe you. They're not going to buy it. They're not pre-framed to see you as the expert. They're going to see you as someone who's going to do their labor. They've already diagnosed their own problem and they just want you to fulfill it. Narrow your focus. This is, I'm going to admit, I'm anti-niche. I know, like the whole room's all quiet. Like I'm anti-niche, not because it's wrong, it's insufficient. I am into industries. So you may start at a niche, but the thing is you want to be able to serve an industry if you ever want to grow. If you want to run a real agency, if you want to run an agency, you need to be able to charge custom prices. And that means you've got, and custom prices meaning premium prices, you have to be able to move up market. A lot of niches you're going to find, like I've got a few clients in like dental and chiropractic and all that, and they found where the price sensitivity was pretty fast, and it was really low because and if you go above that, or even if you sell it right at that amount, they're going to hop from one agency to the next agency. They will never see you as the expert. But if you start looking at, well, I'm serving the chiropractic industry, or then maybe that gets me into what about all that stuff that chiropractors buy, right? Who sells that? Like I like wholesale. I like wholesale industries as opposed to retail industries. I like the people who sell stuff to the people doing stuff, right? The people selling the picks and shovels and not the people digging the gold, right? I like selling to those types of people. So, but narrowing your focus is about your specialty. It's about the worldview that you solve. Like, do they have the same perception that you have of the world? Or can you mirror theirs? Can you solve their problem based upon what it is that they wish to achieve, the way they want to be seen? So if you look at large ad agencies, they work with a lot of different companies. And most of them may be like packaged consumer goods. That may be the only thing that they have in common. But they're able to jump from industry to industry because they're serving what the insights, they're thinking. They're going after that as opposed to, oh, I'm a specialist at making TV commercials. Like most of us in the digital marketing world are out trying to sell, I'm a specialist, I'm good at making Facebook ads, not I'm good at getting to the insights of your customer and getting your brand in front of them and driving business, driving growth, driving market share. We don't speak like that. But if you specialize in an industry, you're going to build expertise. And this expertise is the thing that, the reason niching, picking an industry, specializing is so important is that your expertise grows. And you can then start getting insights where you can solve the same problem faster and faster and faster. Yeah, everybody else calls it productizing. I don't, because productizing doesn't allow you to get to too many premium prices. I like to go up above that where we're able to solve a premium problem and we can do it quickly. And that's where our profitability is going to improve. All right, so delivering it. Your deliverables are intangible. They are not labor. Like I said earlier, I don't even write a report. I just talk it. In our agency, we actually write a report, deliver it, but in my consulting, I just tell the client, and they write it down. Lots of questions, several meetings. Final deliverable is an action plan. I give my clients an action plan. And like, do you want me to help you do that? In our agency, we give them an action plan. All the things that they need to do. Do they need to change their brand? Do they need to change their logo? Do they need to do videography? Do they need to create a new radio spots? Do they need a new website? Can we do landing pages? Like all those things we would list out as part of the action plan. It's not, like I'm trying to stress this, there's not much here. It's intangible. But here's the part about delivering that I'm going to re-stress. Face to face. Don't think by yourself. Think with the client. Everybody wants to be treated like a partner. Everyone. Oh, we partner with our clients. And that client does not see you as a partner at all. Like not at all. Because why? You do all your work behind the scenes. How many people have their clients work with them? Like they come in and we work together, we sit down and we craft ads together. Do we do this? Most of us don't. But what I want you to do is think, do all your thinking, or at least the predominant parts, the parts that make you look awesome, do those in front of your client. And you can do this online, but again, on site. If you can do it on site, if you're able to do it on site, or if you're just willing to do it on site. John, how much time do you spend on a plane going around visiting people?
Probably 9 months a year.
Yeah.
I'd say nearly 11 months.
All right, so that guy's insane, right? So somewhere between a little bit and 11 months out of the year is is the sweet spot, somewhere in between there. So recurring thinking, this is something that I love. So one of the things that I'm contrarian on is recurring revenue. Most people do recurring revenue wrong. And it goes back to that statement of, at some point, your client is going to think, I can get this cheaper, right? But thinking is something you can do recurring. And I asked Headley at lunch, and I told him I was going to call him out on this too. I asked him, are you doing strategy? He's like, yeah, I'm doing strategy. I'm like, okay, are you selling strategy ongoing? It's like, no, I'm not. Why? I don't know. We didn't even get to that part as to why. But this is something that will always make your service more valuable, is if they pay for your thinking on an ongoing basis. You don't have to call yourself a coach. You don't have to call yourself a business consultant. You just say, it's part of our process. Our process is to help you grow your business. So the only way we can do that is to be able to help you grow. And the only way we can do that is if we bill you for strategy on an ongoing basis. So here's the one key to that. So who does thinking for their clients right now? Who gets paid on a recurring service right now? right? Do they know they're paying for your thinking? Line item that shit. Seriously, you put it as a line item. Strategy. And you have who does a monthly call with their client? How many of your clients like that? Like, you send out a report, how many of them read the report? Like, I've worked with SEO companies and all sorts of people doing these recurring revenues. The report never gets read. The client never wants to show up onto a call. Never. You get a few, like, oh, I love what you're doing, right? And it's probably, with you, I think it's probably you are providing value every single time, right? Most people just read the frickin' report to their client. That's why they don't want to show up. You're not actually building their business. With my clients, I'm not a nice guy. I yell at them sometimes, but they still show up to every single one of the calls. And they're eager to, because why? I improve their life every single time we speak. Do you do that with your clients? Do you improve their life, not just their business, their life every single time you speak? So even if they call with a problem and they complain and they said, "You're doing shit work," do you turn that into making their life better? Do you? Like, this is what I preach this all the time. This is the best way of proving that you are the expert, is that every time anyone in your company speaks to them, their life gets better. And then you invoice them. It's on the invoice. What I prefer is a monthly fee. So if you are charging, say, $5,000 a month, find a way to either increase that to $7,500 or find a way to lower the amount of the service and carve off a section of that $5,000 as thinking. Call it strategy. And you're going to have formal meetings with your clients, strategic meetings. You may do them monthly, you may do them quarterly, but you're going to have them, right? And it's got to be a line item. If they don't know they're paying for it, they don't value it. They won't show up to the call. Oh man, love this guy. So why we are doing this? Mo money, no problems, right? So, and I always have to have some goofy joke in all my talks, but this is about not just your money, but it's about the client's money. Strategy makes money. It makes more money than doing just your service. Sure, they're going to pay a lot more. You're going to charge them a lot more than whatever you're charging right now. So right now, as John says, that's your poverty pack. Your next level up is going to have strategy. And you're going to start with it first. You're going to start with strategy first. And it's going to make you more money, but it's also going to make your clients far more money, even though it's costing them more. Okay? Let's do some Q&A. This is what I'm much better at than giving talks. Will.
Cool. Thanks. That was awesome. Question for both of you, actually, kind of a mixed one. I love the idea of the strategy session, but you know how on one of your slides you had the given multiple options, multiple ways to say yes?
Yeah.
How would you combine the two?
Okay. So I wouldn't. So there's several different ways of doing business, right? You're going to have what John may have been talking about, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, is you're selling your service. You've actually got your service, A, B, and C. Those are your options. That goes into the road mapping. Here are your options. Here are your options, A, B, and C. But we're a strategy-first company. We do strategy before we can tell you what are the three options. I have no idea what's going to work for you yet. I haven't scoped your project. Like, we don't know each other. You got to take a girl out, right? So we don't know each other very well. So let's actually get to know each other, and then I can give you the right recommendations, and in those recommendations could be A, B, and C.
If you're going to sell strategy, you sell strategy. You don't sell anything else. You sell. If you're setting up an appointment to sell strategy, you're setting up an appointment for the strategy. It's like the next logical step. After strategy comes recommendation.
So your first call, you've like 15-20 minute first call.
You're setting up to sell the strategy, not to set. You're not setting up to sell the whole service.
Call unless they're like, yep, we're happy to pay for the strategy.
Rob said it before, and I think I said it earlier on. Is this a now thing? Are you ready now? Is this important to do now, or is this something you need to do later? If it's important now, then you're on the start. If it's something later, then you're not on the start.
Yeah.
So is your option A or option B way to say yes? Okay, great, would you like to do that? We can do a short 2-hour version on Zoom. So if you want to get the most value out of this exercise, I'll come to your side and say 2 days. That's voice mental. Yeah.
So,
is that your A versus B?
I've done that, not on purpose. Because mostly I'm trying to go through my process. Rob was saying earlier, and it goes to a phrase I say all the time: little hinges swing big doors. We only want a small number of people. So it's better to get the ones who are going to do exactly the thing that's best for us and for them. Not the ones that you gotta work something out, right? I've done it accidentally, where it's like, and it was done this way. I was selling online. We're going to do the workshop online. And the guy's like, well, we're up in Utah. Can you and you're in Phoenix. It's a 1-hour flight. Can you just come up? And I said, well, for me to do that, it's going to be this fee. And they're like, all right. So I did it accidentally. It wasn't on purpose. But yes, you could. But the thing about being the expert as opposed to an expert is the expert has a process, right? If you deviate the process for a client, well, then the client is the expert and you're not. That's the difference. This is because you're at the beginning of a sales process, you're in a battle for control. And the one who ends up negotiating the most control wins, and that's usually the client. But if you start selling better, you learn how to say, this is our process, this is our policy, and we don't deviate for anyone. Right? Well, granted, we all have a price, so I will deviate eventually, right? But we tell them, well, we don't deviate. We don't deviate from this. So at some point, they're going to push back. And that pushback isn't because they don't want to pay it. It isn't because they don't want to do it. It's because they're trying to gain control over the conversation. They want to be in control of the client relationship. You need to maintain control of the client relationship to be the expert. Otherwise, you turn into a vendor. If you're not in control of the selling process, you're sure as hell not going to be in control of the rest of this project. That's the main answer. That's why, like I said, it's accidental that I would do that. I would rather go in and say, this is it, and then find out why we can't come to some agreement on why my process doesn't work for you. That's the way I do it. All right? Any other questions? I got some time, I think, right here.
Yeah, you mentioned how a big influx of inquiries and sales can sometimes put a business under. Mm-hmm. How did you make the jump from just doing marketing strategy to strategic thinking on like a business level? Did you team up with like a business improvement, or how would you recommend?
Oh, that would have been smart. Right? I'm not that bright. I'm an entrepreneur, so I think I can fix everything. So that's what I did. I'd been reading just voraciously all sorts of business books. You know, thought I was the second coming of Peter Drucker, and I was like, I'll just solve your problem. Like, that's what I did. I just went and read a bunch, and then I was working closely with my clients and seeing like, oh, if we do this in your business, this happens. Okay, then I'd go to another client and go, hey, I know how to do this. That's how I made the transition. I was not strategic about it at all. I don't think that far in advance. I'm kind of now kind of person. Headley.
Yeah, you mentioned right at the very start of the presentation the importance of including like data as part of the strategy.
Yes.
In my experience, like data that's connected to the labor clients don't care about. Like I can tell, hey, the terms you want to turn your website to turn up for are this, and they want to, you want to be focusing your SEO and content around that, or whatever it is.
Okay.
straight over their head.
Okay, when I'm saying data, I'm talking about I'm not talking about the things related to the service, because that's not strategy. That's just scoping the project, right? So clients don't care about your labor. They don't. But so the data that McKinsey goes after is, well, what's the market, right? Who are we serving? Some of the things that you can start implementing, especially if you're in marketing, is you work with your clients to identify their ideal customer. Guaranteed, most of your customers have no idea who their customers are. That's a powerful strategic service, is just scoping their client base and then tying that back to, say, a website, right? That would be the data that you could start moving into. The reason we can't go too deep into data for small businesses is they don't have the budget. They just don't have the budget for you to do it all. Over here first, and I'll come back to you.
We often talk about leverage in this kind of industry. And one of the things I struggle with strategy is leverage, because I find it's not something you can recruit someone to do easily, and my time.
Okay, all right, let's stop you there. Yeah. Easily, there's the problem, right? So we solve hard problems. If you want to get paid a lot of money, I mean a lot of money, you solve hard problems. Well, that's your hard problem you got to solve in your own business. It's not an easy thing. It is scalable. Like Rob was saying, oh, he couldn't scale the coaching. Well, he tried, but are there coaching companies that have scaled? Yeah, Tony Robbins all over the world does 100 and something million out of coaching, and he doesn't do the coaching, right? So is it easy? No, I bet it was a pain in the ass for him to build. Right? So if you want to start doing strategy, look at how you would recruit, or as I say to most of my clients, is who in your company are you not tapping into their potential? Like a lot of us have smart people that we're just not even attempting to access that mass between their ears. We're not even attempting it. So if you find, oh, this person has potential in my business, why don't I just start grooming them up? Will that person be running their own strategy in the next couple of months? Maybe not, but maybe in a year they're running them and you're not touching it at all, right? So find somebody that you can groom. Start grooming your leadership in your company. That's going to. Okay. Then there's the biggest problem, is that you don't have leverage. You have leverage for labor, yes, but you or even just running a company. Like, what happens if you get hit by a bus? God forbid, right? None of those other people that you're outsourcing are going to continue running your company. So you don't truly have leverage. You have labor, which is easy to leverage, right? So if you're able to outsource labor to someone else, so can your client. Right? So what you are providing, you've got to learn to build that part of the company. The part of the company that makes it valuable to use you, as opposed to just bypassing you and going to the people you use. All right, I got here first, and then I'll come to you.
So just to an easy, because I'm not a math lead either.
Yeah.
In terms of, so paid discovery, 10% to say yearly fees.
Yeah. What?
Just really easy numbers.
Okay. So project. Project. Something that I didn't cover is there's 3 ways that you must be billing. Right. You must be billing this. Is right up front. You have your strategy. The next thing is training, and then the third is your ongoing. Right. So a lot of people only have ongoing as part of their service. You have to have project income if you're ever going to survive as an agency. I know that's counter to what everyone likes to talk about, but if you don't have project income, you are never going to survive. You're going to struggle. You supplement your project income with that recurring revenue. So what we look at is not that individual, say first thing. What if you do a project and then you do your recurring revenue? How much is that in a year? Right? And then you take that 10%. Right? So we're looking at annual revenue from a client, and we're going to take 10% of that.
And that's going to be the front end bit.
Yep, and that's going to be that first part.
$100,000 fine, $10,000 up front.
Yep.
then the second bit would be the strategic workshop would be 25% of that 100 grand.
Well, if you choose to do that, you may not even ever have to.
Yeah.
You may never ever do a workshop for your clients. I like doing them because you get so much insight. It's amazing. But you don't have to do that. That's an option. So those are the three options. You can do strategy as the interview, and it takes maybe 2 hours max, and you're done. And you send them a report and all that stuff. The other, you work together with your client, get some insight, you cover essentially the same content, but then you go into the option of doing a consulting project where you scope that whole business. You go deep in that company. And then you go into your first project, and then you go into your recurring revenue.
So that percentage would be, you would then say, if we go with 100 grand, it would be 10, and then 100 grand on top of that?
Yes.
Got it.
Yep.
That's what I wanted to clarify.
Yep. Yeah. You don't like, but it's not carved in stone. Like no. These numbers. That's why I said it's an about,
the
right?
The psychology behind it is that it's separate.
It's separate. Yes, it must be separate. Right. Back here in the back first.
I was just wondering, like, if you're selecting someone to groom as a strategist, are you looking at, like, you'd think you'd go after like a salesperson to groom into that because it transitions super well into selling them some major services. So who do you groom?
Someone who shows high levels of curiosity. You can't be strategic and not be curious. There's not a single person who lacks curiosity who's also a strategic thinker. That's the very first thing you got to look for. Does this person in their life, do they just go, oh man, wonder how that works? That's how I got into operations. I was like, oh, I wonder how that works. Just curious. And like, how does that work? How does this work? Like, if you find somebody like that, then they can be groomed into strategy. Because then when they start asking, well, what's all this stuff behind the scenes? When they're thinking that, you can groom that to show them over time, because they got to get experience, because you can't do strategy with zero experience. They gain experience over time, and then they can have insights. That insight is strategy. Cool? All right. I think there was one, all right, here and then there.
When you talk about strategy, if we took, say, a discovery thing, like an audit or something like that, was 10% for that, and then they said, yes, we want to go ahead, there's the onboarding, and then there's the monthly recurring. With us, we do monthly in advance. Yep. So does that mean when they say yes, they pay both the onboarding and the first installment of the monthly recurring revenue in the day zero?
Yeah, buddy.
Yep.
So the one thing that I've worked with a lot of clients on is they will say do a website, and then they do marketing, right? And then they don't start the marketing, and they don't start billing the marketing until they finish the website. Well, how long does it take for a client to get you content so you can finish the website? Sometimes months, right? So then you're just waiting around to get paid. That's dumb, because they're not connected. They are not actually in sequence. You made that up. Onboarding, your initial project, the building of all the things you have to do to even do advertising. Like, you start on that, but then on the other part, find out what you can do, because you may not be able to spend money on ads yet, right? You might not be able to do that. But what can you do that's associated to that? So they understand from like day one, we're paying. We may not pay to do the advertising yet until 30 days later, because we got to get the project done, but it's already billed. Like, it's already built into the billing process. Yeah. So they're going to get dinged before you ever start. Yep. Right? So figure out how they run parallel. Figure out your services that run parallel, and build the ones that can be billed at the same time at the same time.
Do you have a percentage for onboarding as a benchmark?
So I do on that with our clients. We do it as a project. So we have in the roofing space, we have a $25,000 project. We're about to turn it into $30,000 just because. And so it's going to be $30,000, and we do these things for you, and they're done, right? And then we have this other part that's the ongoing, and here's how we're going to bill you there too, right?
So the way we bill it is $10,000 upfront setup fee, and then your first month's installment upfront. Because we don't run an ad for 6 weeks. Like we don't actually run any advertising up until now. We could run ads within 2 days, but we don't run the ads until week 6. Because we've got to do the onboarding process and make sure that their team is skilled up to handle leads. So we have training that we provide them to make sure that their phones or the people who are handling the process are actually in play and know what's going to happen. Then once they actually tick off, then we run the ads. So 6 weeks in, they're already to their second month of billing in advance. But we haven't run a single ad.
Yeah. Right? So back over here.
Yeah, so if a prospect is going to pay you for your thinking, then most likely your positioning has to be really strong, because other agencies do that consultation for free, right? So what can you say about how to position yourself either during the call or before the call so that they feel very confident and strong about paying you for something that maybe a ton of other agencies would do for free?
Okay, inside that resource guide, I actually have a video on how to do a qualifying call, and it talks about pre-framing and what to do to pre-frame somebody before they ever land on that qualifying call, so that when they come into the call, they already see you as the expert. But let me challenge your thinking that you have to be. Rob Nixon stood up here and told you he cold emailed people who had no idea who he was, and he sold them a $40,000 thinking.
The other thing is if you make that offer, the client, if you say this is the way we do it, and this is the process, and you make that offer, then that's what they look at face value. You will differentiate yourself by charging for the strategy session as opposed to giving it away for free. And a lot of the people we work with, the champions, when they started making that offer of charging, the client was like, yeah, that makes sense. We'll pay for the information or for what we need to do. Very few clients objected to paying for that session, right? Because it was part of the process. This is how we work. This is what we do. First step is, so is it okay if we do that first? Yes. Great. Credit card, and away we go.
So you might get pushback where they go, well, I just talked to this other guy who's going to do that. It sounds like the same thing, but he's going to do it for free. And what you can say is, well, go ahead, try them out for free. Or ask them the question, well then, if they're willing to do it for free, why are we speaking? Like, why are we having a discussion? Because wouldn't you have just gone with that guy? Wouldn't you have just done that? So there must have been something missing. What was that thing that was missing, right? Because I'm sure in our process, we've done this for a lot of clients. I know in our process, we're probably going to fill that missing gap, right? So if there's pushback, you ask, well, why? If somebody tells you I can get this cheaper or free, like, okay, but why didn't you pick it? If you know you could get it cheaper and free, why didn't you pick it? And then they will immediately tell you why they didn't do it. And so now you're not defending yourself anymore. Now you're talking about what's valuable to them, right?
Can I ask a question of the group? Who's here that has found it to sell something for free just as challenging as to sell it to be paid for? Who's found it's really hard to give away shit for free? Isn't that interesting? Like, I'm going to give you this thing, all this value, all these ideas, free. And they say no, right? Why do you think that?
People don't value free.
People don't value free, that's right.
It's got to be a line item on the invoice. Yeah. All right, one more question. I think we got time for one more question. Anyone? Right over here, Evan.
The tiers of strategic thinking that you had from high value to low value, is that the value as in like a perceived value or a charge out value?
Both, because the higher you go up, the more you can charge for it, right? To the point where you go high enough, you're charging millions of dollars for it. So it's both in the value that the client gets and in the amount that you can charge. Because if it doesn't provide high value to the client, well, then you can't charge a lot for it. But if it does provide a high value for the client, you can charge a lot for it, right? Well, that was a short one, so one back here.
Tim, how long do clients stay with you? And what do you do if they want to leave?
Okay, great question. Rule number one of agencies, all clients leave. Rule number one, you have to understand that about the business. The business, they're not permanent. That's why the phrase lifetime value of a customer even exists. Because if you had them for the whole lifetime, right, forever, the time that they die is when they leave you as a client, right? But all clients leave. So you have to understand that. I just had, with my business partner in one of my companies, we just had our leadership call, and we talked about this new product that we have, and we're doing the math on it. And we're building into the math of our business a 20% churn. Because we don't know yet. It's a brand new product. So we're building it into the pricing and our expense structure immediately. And if we find out that our churn's far lower, then we can address it. So always think about that as understanding that all clients leave. Then we can actually reverse engineer that. We know they're going to leave, but can we get them to leave on our terms, right? So this is the way I think. Can we get the client to leave on our terms as opposed to theirs? Because it makes a world of difference to the morale of your company. Because if you have clients dropping you left and right, you and all your team are going to feel like shit. We're just humans, right? It feels like a personal attack when they leave. So we start building this into the business. So we get them to leave on our terms. So with like my coaching clients, I don't allow any coaching client to stay longer than 3 years. Like if I haven't tapped out everything I can give you in 3 years, then I'm doing a terrible job and you should leave. But usually in that 3-year period, they've grown so much that now they need to go use a larger consulting company. One that does things that I can't do, right? So if I'm doing my job right, they should leave. If I'm doing my job wrong, they should definitely leave, right? So that answers parts of that. But then, why ask that question?
Why did I ask?
Yes.
Because I'm just curious how you got to sort of upsell them something as well at a later stage, or if you sort of take it like a process, or.
Well, okay. So that's a different question than a retention. But one of my videos that I have is called Spikes of Happiness. And projects are spikes of happiness. So if you're doing recurring revenue, eventually they're going to want to get someone else to do it for them. But if you're doing projects for them periodically, and a good agency does this, they do projects. What happens after the end of a successful project? Your client's happy. So if you're doing a recurring revenue service, they can be doing great and they're going to still want to go try someone new. But if you always build into solving problems for your client so that once, twice, maybe even 3 times a year you do a project for them, then you get those little spikes of happiness where they're like, man, you are doing such a good job for us, right? And when I say a project, it could simply be a quarterly planning session. We're going to do quarterly planning. I'm going to host your company retreat, and you're going to pay me for that, right? I'm going to host it, and we're going to do strategy for 3 days, right? And they can pay you for that. That's a project. There's all kinds of projects you can do in with your company for your clients. There's a ton of them because what you're doing is you're transferring IP. Your expertise is intellectual property. Find multiple ways to get that intellectual property to them. Find ways of doing that, right? So then you're going to keep a client far longer because you're always serving their needs, right? But that's not a retention strategy. That is just what I call grow the account strategy. You should always be looking at how do I grow this account? And the only way to do that is serve your client better. I think I'm done. I think I'm out of time. All right, thank you.